There's a book written by a woman who had lost $1 million with Madoff. And she's an author. She was already an author. And so she wrote about her experience, Lost and Found by Janine Roth. And she says, we will always be loyal to what we believe is the truth, even if what we believe is a sham.
I wanted to mix things up a bit here on the show. Welcome to Talking Money Unfiltered, where we grab a headline, a hot take, or whatever's sparking real conversation right now. Welcome to Talking Money Unfiltered, the side of everyone's talking money where the guardrails come off. No script, no interviews, just raw conversations about the messy, emotional, and very real side of money. We're talking about the stories we usually keep to ourselves, the money traps we fall into, and the lessons we learned the hard way. Think of it like grabbing coffee with a friend who isn't afraid to tell it like it is about money, and you're totally invited to listen in. In today's episode, I'm joined by Rachel Duncan. Rachel is a certified financial therapist, art therapist, and the host of the Money Healing Club podcast. Rachel and I talk Ponzi schemes, scholastic book fairs, a very quick trip to IKEA, and the cost of FOMO. We swap stories about debt, consumerism, and why even a quick errand with a friend can teach you something about money boundaries. It's part history lesson, part therapy session, and part money confessional you didn't know you needed. Let's get into it.
All I think about all day, every day is money and all the different ways we can look at it and experience it. And I recently went on a big international family trip and we had a lot of downtime and a lot of travel time. And I'm a big podcast listener. And I don't quite know how I learned about this new podcast. That's what I want to talk about today is this like mini series I just listened to. So, because it kind of relates to what we do. And also is just interesting on its own. So it's called Easy Money, the Charles Ponzi story. And it's just like a 6-episode, I don't know if it's just like a single run, but it is one of the most interesting things I've ever listened to. And I think also because I was in a headspace of just like, I just want to geek out about stuff, and just, scratch itches and stuff. But anyway, like the history of Ponzi, like Charles Ponzi as a person and how the whole Ponzi scheme happened, how it was named, after him. And then also like relating a little bit to like, Ponzi schemes after that, and Madoff and stuff like that. And that has led me into other books. It's not just that I'm kind of geeking out about a part of history or whatever that I didn't know. Like there's something about it. And maybe it's because like we're all feeling this like mistrust in the economy.
Yeah.
I mean, there is no easy money.
Right.
And there is no replacement for kind of boring old investment advice. Like, I mean, I don't know, that speaks definitely more to, how you work, but like we all want there to be a quick, easy way.
Well, money is slow, right?
It's
Money's
slow.
slow and it you just have to wait and let things cook, and we don't have a lot of patience, right? And it's not sexy. The right
No.
things to do are not sexy. They are not exciting to talk about. And that like it goes against everything as a culture of what we want, right?
I think
We want
that's
things
it.
fast and exciting.
Yeah. And okay, it's super easy to spend it, right? That's the exciting part. Like we talked about in our other episode. Like that's the dopamine rush. That's fast. It feels fast when we buy something because that transaction does happen really fast. But like everything else about money, it's slow. It's patience is such a virtue. And like kind of boring old stuff, bonds and mutual funds and index funds, like
Mhm.
it's just that is just kind of it. There is no other like easy, tidy answer. Um, but what was really interesting is throughout this mini series, the journalist who's running it, she also talks to like academics who study white collar crime and stuff like that. And there's like so many similarities with all these Ponzi schemes. And one of them is they often start out legitimately.
That's what
I
I
think,
was going to ask, because
yeah,
didn't Ponzi start off legitimate? Like he didn't seek out to rip people off. It just became a beast he couldn't handle anymore.
that is exactly it. And like to back up a little bit, what's so interesting about the story is that he was an Italian immigrant in Boston in like 1910 to 1920. And it was just a time where there were so many immigrants, especially Italian immigrants, promised basically the American dream, and they arrived. It sucked. Like they couldn't get jobs. There's tons of discrimination against Italians. And but he had this like natural knack. Like he was charming beyond charming, super confident. Um, and yet he got this idea. I still don't. It was such a weird thing of like buying these international stamps and then that were like cheaper to buy in Europe, but had a higher value in the States. So he said, like, I'm going to go buy all these international stamps, like from my connections back in Italy, get them over to the States and then sell them at like a 20 because the States value these international stamps more than they do in Europe. Okay. So he's got this idea. Like that's okay. I mean, it's kind of weird, but his own business idea. And he starts kind of telling people. And they're like, this is great. Take my $100, And so people just started throwing money at him before he even like had it worked out because he was so slick and charming. And what happened is it spread throughout the Italian immigrant community. So again, it's the people he knew. People, he looks like us. He gets us. And it was just like it's such this good timing of this group of people feeling really disenfranchised. So then when he finally gets around to like actually buying these stamps or he's selling them, like because it would have been like through the US Post Office, the post office is like, absolutely not. Like we would never buy that. But he was already like down the road with this and people like he couldn't even turn it. Oh, people were so he finds out, somewhere on the early stages that this can't even work. But like, I think the delusion was that everyone else believed him. And he would do this thing where, like, if someone had any kind of doubt, he'd be like, here's your money back. Here it is with your 10%. No problem. I mean, I'd hate for you to, miss out on next month's returns. Right. And so it was always this like future pacing. So this breadcrumb trail of like, oh, it could be a little bit more. It could be a little bit more. Oh, you could reinvest it. He had offices all over the East Coast. Like the,
For these stamps.
yes. And like for people, I mean, it was a whole thing. He had like, I don't know, dozens of employees, all these agents, people lined up to throw money at him. And when they wanted their return, he gave it to them, right? It was all so easy. All of it happened in the course of 9 months, which is just bizarre. If you think about how analog like all of this is all like paper, like envelopes and stuff like that. He even got a controlling interest of a bank. He bought a controlling interest of a bank so that like he could hide from the auditors. I mean, it was the wheeling and dealing is so great. I think part of this, you guys have to listen to this podcast because they use voice actors to do it. And so like there's a bit of like the journalistic stuff, and then they have voice actors actually do like reenactments of scenes, and they have Sebastian Maniscalco, that comedian, is the voice of Ponzi, and he actually like really looks like Ponzi, like he really looks. So like it's this very theatrical thing. I mean, they have to make a movie out of it, but it, and then it's like his, how did that impact his marriage and all this other weird stuff about his past comes out, and it is like the most rip roaring thing where it's like, oh, it's sort of this like it was this mania. Like he really lost his mind and he never thought he did anything wrong. Because it's always like, oh, well, it's gonna it's gonna happen. I'm not ripping anyone off. It's gonna happen. And it was sort of like this drug of everyone believing in him so much. And he had just this way of sort of navigating the system and convincing people to trust him. It's a wild ride. It's really, really interesting. And it wasn't until he served prison time, and then the day he was released from prison, he had never bothered to fully immigrate, so he got deported back to Italy, and then so it wasn't allowed back in the States. Then like wound up in South America, and he died penniless.
Wow. Wow.
The whole thing is just fascinating. And
Yeah.
and here's the other thing that's really cool. The only reason they really know like what he was really like and beyond just all the news, because there was a lot of news. There's definitely a lot of press about him. Was the letters he wrote with his wife from prison. And like his wife's family, they like discovered this box, and it's like, basically Ponzi is a person. And anyway, it's so interesting. So anyway, I recommend it as a deep dive, but also like, oh, this whole thing, we all want it to be true. And even the people running these things want them to be true. That's like the weird part of it. And even like there are some, little voice clips of Madoff, him kind of being like, I don't know if we can believe it or not, but he's like, I really don't know what I was thinking. Like, I really was kind of in this altered state. Like, of course I knew better. Like, in hindsight, I see it. But at the time, I didn't think I was doing anything wrong. That's the wild thing about this, that I feel like that's the surprising part is I didn't think I was doing anything wrong.
Well, I wonder if it's also like, you know, you're there's just some people that they just step in it and they end up lucky, right? Like you're just your whole life things just fall into place for you. And usually if you're charismatic and all of that,
Yeah.
that helps. So I bet Ponzi probably did little things, or things always just worked out for him. So
Yes.
maybe there was like an inflated sense of self, or like it's going to work out because it's me, or maybe he did have complete faith in what he was doing and he just knew in the end it was going to, like, knew, quote unquote, in the end it was just going to work out, but kind of had to trudge through it while it was happening. Um and then I think you just get in so deep in it, it's like, it's just gotta work out.
That's it.
I'm not gonna admit defeat. I'm not gonna admit that this was wrong or bad, or I'm just gonna bring on more people, and I just need that next big thing to happen
Yes.
to right all of these wrongs. So
Because we're
I do
all,
believe some of that.
well, and we're all doing the best we can. We're even the quote unquote like villain. Like, no one thinks they're the villain in their own story.
Right.
Everyone thinks they're the hero. And that's like such an interesting thread to pull. Like, it was more like, oh, it's bad right now, but it's gonna get better. Oh, just next week or that deal or that, like, whatever. And yeah, I just keep thinking also about being so carried away in the moment of like how we just want it to be true. Like, so I even have a quote. Like, so there's a book written by a woman who had lost $1 million with Madoff. And she's an author. She was already an author. And so she wrote about her experience. It's called Lost and Found by Janine Roth. And she says, we will always be loyal to what we believe is the truth, even if what we believe is a sham. It's like you just want to believe. Anyway, it's also a very good book, Lost and Found.
And that's why it is important to really understand who's investing your money, where it's being held. Why Bernie Madoff was able to get away with what he got away with is because there was no checks and balances. So he was the advisor, he was the investment manager, he managed the investments, and he also held on to the money.
Oh, so
So
he was playing all the roles and somewhere else would be like played by different people.
exactly,
I see.
exactly.
Yeah.
So if you think of like a triangle or a three-legged stool, each party really should be different, or there
Mhm.
should be some way for checks and balances. So if I remember correctly, when clients would invest with him, they literally just wrote a check to him. Like
Personally.
the check was made payable to him, which it's like, just right there, it's like, doesn't that feel, and I'm not trying to
Well,
victim blame or anything,
and
or
can I
victim
back up a
shame.
little? Right. Well,
Yeah,
because hindsight, right? Because
right.
didn't he also, he had a professionally very high position, right? I mean, he had his, it's not like he came out of nowhere. He wasn't like Ponzi coming out of nowhere. Like,
He was
he,
legit.
he was like a
Yeah.
big investment dude on Wall
Mhm.
Street and legitimately, right?
Yeah.
And then he had like
Yes.
this little like cottage industry. So that's the thing. He like, and I think that's why, oh, I'm going to write the check right to him because he's the king of it all. Like he is
Right.
legitimate in these other ways, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
So he was what's called the custodian. So he held
Okay.
on to the money, where in other investments, the custodian's separate. The
Mm,
custodian needs to be separate. Then he was the investment manager, so he picked the investments, and then he was the advisor. So he was doing due diligence on himself and on his trust company. So there should be a trust company that's completely separate, holding on to the money.
mhm.
And then the reporting of it, he did the reports. There was no one else to check on the statement. So he
Oh,
just
I didn't.
fudged statements. as
So
well.
really was just like in his office, just the whole shop.
It,
Wow.
it was it was completely wild, wild west. Like he did, there was no one checking up on him. So that's why he was able to get away with it for so long. Where
Yeah.
like an advisor or like a Fidelity or something like that. There's so many checks and balances on it that if a client were to invest, the check is made out to the trust company that is holding on to the money. And it doesn't even it shouldn't even touch, it doesn't need to touch the advisor's hands. Right. And then the advisor is overseeing who's managing the money, generally speaking. So, and then the statements come from the trust company. So the
Mhm.
investment managers report to the trust company their performance and what's on the statements. So there's so many more parties involved that like make something like that not impossible because anything's possible, but how they're trying to prevent anything like that from ever
Mhm.
happening again is because of all the different parties that should be involved in these transactions.
I mean, maybe I'm like so into this because, with like the economic instability out there, I just feel like, I mean, there's always time for grifters, but like, oh, but Charlie across the street is going to do right by me. And just this word of caution that, yeah, there is no easy money. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. And I think I didn't know that. That's such an important point. Like, there need to be several people involved here. There needs to be like some licensing. Are they licensed? I mean, I'm just wondering, other than talking to like a planner like you, like how could someone kind of suss that out? Or if they're worried about maybe like their parents, maybe I've heard of people's parents getting kind of bamboozled by stuff. And I'm just wondering, how can we support each other? Checking these
I
things
think
out.
it's like a gut check. Are
Yeah.
you getting into this because you don't want to miss out? Because everyone else is doing it. I don't want to miss out. Well, with the Ponzi and his stamps or Bernie Madoff. And if the rate of return is what's being flashed at you first, that's something else that like you should kind of have a red flag. If what the rate of return is what you're being told first and foremost, that's a red flag.
Mm.
Because there's only a couple products that can actually guarantee a return, and you actually are not allowed to post or advertise based on the SEC rules, advertise returns.
Oh, really?
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. So, and there's also very specific wording around return. So it's like just leave out anything with returns on marketing materials or anything like that. So if so like you mentioned, how can we protect our parents? Like if your mom calls you and says, "Yeah, I had this conversation and they're telling me I can get XYZ returns from this investment," like that's right away. Like, okay, we need to look a lot more into this.
Yeah.
Or if their sales tactic is, well, everyone's getting into it and you're going to miss out.
Right.
Again, that because and if your primary driver is, well, everyone's doing it, so it must be okay, or I don't want to miss out on this, that's another like,
Or they seem like nice people, or I know them, like, thinking
yes,
that there is, like, that kind of community trust. Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
I love this is turning out to be, I think, a really useful PSA. Because while it's rare, it does happen. And it's, like, remarkably similar, apparently, a lot of these, it not intentionally, but just the people who are, quote, unquote, "successful" with these Ponzi schemes, there tend to be some similarities, right? It's the, like, friend-to-friend connection, seem really trustworthy. Yeah, this is really important, but, like, guaranteed returns, um, kinda like we're gonna buck the system kinda thing too, like, "Oh, you don't wanna go with those big shops, they're not looking out for you the way I look out for you." And which, in some different industries might make more sense, but, yeah, in this one, it is really one to watch for. Like, we do have some of these regulations for a reason, they are there to protect us.
yeah, absolutely. The regulations exist to protect. Um, and there's so many rules that it's like I don't even know how people could get around all of these rules.
Totally.
Uh,
I mean, even
that's
personally, like, I'm a financial therapist, but, like, I've been playing around with, like, putting ads up. I can't put the words money and finance in my advertising because it gets flagged, right? I mean, there is, like, you have to work really hard to
Yes.
even get the
Yes.
word out, um, because of there's so many grifters out there.
I also on vacation came across a podcast that I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Um, it's called Debt Heads, and it's like a 6-episode series, and it's about 2 friends who are also in, like, the producing entertainment industry, so the podcast is really well produced. They're best friends, they do everything together, they share everything except for debt, and finally, the one friend was like, I have to tell you something. Like, I have this much of debt and like I don't know what to do. And I need to talk to someone about it and it's weighing on me. So then they like go through this journey together and they interview the woman's mom because the woman's father that's in the debt passed away. And he had struggles in his life and he passed away when she was young, so it was just her and her mom, and they lived in Brooklyn, I believe. They talked about how shopping was the hobby. Like consumerism is the hobby. What do we do on a weekend? What do we do when we want exercise? We go to the mall. They interviewed her grandmother and was like, "Yeah, I go to the mall." They named the mall and it's like this huge mall. Yeah, we would just go for walks in the mall. They went to TJ Maxx and talked about the strategy around that and how just consumerism is a hobby
Yeah.
and how we need to break that. If I see something I like it, I put in my cart. Even if I'm not going to buy it, I'm putting it in my cart just in case. And she was just like my upbringing really drove, it's not my mom's fault, but it drove why I am the way I am. But then you look at society, how things are just stacked against us
Yeah.
too with consumerism. They talked about, remember the Scholastic book fairs?
Oh, we still have them at my son's school. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like they're not as cool though. They don't
No.
seem as cool.
The book
I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just different because now I'm an adult and I'm viewing it through adult eyes.
now
But
we
I
see it for what
remember,
it is.
yeah, yeah. Now I see it for what it is. I'm like, I am not paying $5 for this pen for you to get. Like, no way. But I remember like when they'd wheel in the red bookcases and they'd open it up and they'd give you the preview. And it was just actually probably is really similar. I'm just now an adult and like jaded. But but they talked about the Scholastic Book Fair and like how that was just such a part of our culture of the spending and teaching us how to
Oh my god.
spend and
Well, and
all of
then,
it.
like, if I don't fund my kid's wallet, then they feel left out. So it's like, I gotta be in on
Yeah.
this. And then, like, they feel like they have to spend it all. I mean, it's still happening. And also, I
Yeah.
have to say, sorry, Scholastic, the books aren't that good. And then also, Scholastic got in some hot water because of like, oh, I don't even remember it. They're like kind of on the edge of getting canceled last year. So our school was
Oh.
like looking at doing something because I think because of a diversity issue. I don't even know. Um, but they've so cornered the market in providing these to schools and it being this, like, beloved annual event, like, "Oh, you don't like books for kids?" But, yeah, I mean, yeah, I've seen some great little memes, like, my love of shopping began with the Scholastic Book Fair, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And they covered so many things. And what I appreciated was just how open they
Yeah,
were about everything because they're in entertainment or the arts, their income is very lumpy, like
yeah,
it's not consistent. So the struggles with that, and it was they did such a great job. And I'll link both of our podcasts in the show notes. But that was just a great one. And then I haven't listened to them yet, but they have these bonus episodes of the way we get by. So like
mm,
how you survive during these different financial periods of your life, like
yeah.
maternity leave or if
Oh,
you
I
get laid
see.
off from your job. So how you get by during those transitions, which again, no one talks about this stuff.
You're just supposed to know. I love this. I'm gonna recommend it to I'm gonna listen to it and then recommend it in my community. Yeah, I love this. This is like, yeah, I have like the closest friends, and like we'll talk about sex, we'll talk about anything before we actually talk about what's going on with money. And then sometimes just like a little, maybe someone really bravely shares, and it's so great. It's like, oh, we can finally talk about like how much you're earning, or da da da, or fight with your partner about money. And it's yeah, it can be such a opportunity for intimacy. One of my big quests is for all of us to just be a lot more casual and open about money, and what our lives cost. Because we're all walking around like, how are you doing this? How are they doing this? How did they get that car? How did they go on that trip? Oh, they just must be quote good with money. And there's so much more going on than that. And like, we're all faking it. Probably people think you're doing great with money, and you might not think you're doing great with money because we're all to a certain point kind of, getting by or piecing it together. And I do think so many people, so many of us really long to talk about this. Like we feel in the dark. And I love that it's like two best friends that they like embarked on this journey together. Like, what is this like to share? Yeah, that like debt has gotten the way it is, or yeah, living the gig economy and the reality of that. And it's not our parents' economy.
You're so right, just talking about it, and especially with your friends, even if you don't wanna give up personal like, super personal stuff, you can still talk about money and not no one knows like, no one knows anything more about you. I'm not putting it all on the table, but I'm talking about, like, the stuff that's frustrating me, the groceries, the nickeling and diming for stuff, the travel sports, going out to eat, how expensive it is, the credit card transaction fees, all of that stuff grinds on me. And it bothers me. And it is nice to just talk about it for a minute and get it off our chests, and you do feel closer afterwards because it is so intimate. It is so much different than any other topics that we talk about, that you do feel closer
I
afterwards.
really think so. I think it's a brave thing to do. And I think there's often so much relief. And like an example, two of my closest friends are taking their kids to this folk festival this weekend. And I really wanted to go, but I wanted to go. I didn't really want to go. I'm not like a big festival person. It's hot. I don't really like crowds and stuff. But I love the idea and I wanted to be my friends and take my kids. It's like $100 a piece. And I just like I like it, but I don't like it enough. But I hate to miss out. And I hummed and hawed about it for like a weekend. My friend's like, hey, like we're getting tickets. Are you gonna do this? And I decided not to. And I had to really sit with some of the emotions, right? The feeling left out, oh, why can't I just kind of join them? But like, it's not aligned with where our money's going these days. And we just have other things that are more important. And I wanted to, obviously, because it's what I do, and I'm such a dork about this, also not just not make an excuse, just say, we're putting our money towards different things right now. I'm sad to miss it. I hope you guys have a great time and send me pictures. I think we need to share a little bit of our thought process or our feelings or thinking about a thing. 'Cause I think we learn so much from like, oh, my friend just like held back. Or can I tell a story? I was actually one of the same friend group. She's like, hey, I want to get something for my kid at IKEA. Do you want to meet me? And it's like for her daughter's like third birthday. And she wanted to get that little kitchen set. She knew exactly what she wanted. And we go to IKEA. I think we're gonna have this like windy time and shop and da da da. She knew exactly where it was, like in the warehouse. We did all the cut throughs, and she just got that. I mean, we picked up a few candles, like we were looking at like some other stuff, and she's like, "No, I'm just gonna get that." And I should tell her how much I learned about her in that experience and how it's like, oh, this feels really good. We went to IKEA for the one thing and got that one thing and left. Right.
But
Wow.
it almost feels weird doing that,
Yes.
like, we should
Yes.
be let's look around. Wait, that's it? We're done?
I
Wait,
mean, since we're here.
like yeah, right, like, let's like, "Oh, that's cute. Let's look at this pillow. It almost feels
Yeah.
weird to not to just go buy the thing that you went there for, and that's it.
It was also so empowering. I mean, we still had a great time together. We had a great time catching up. I think we ran into her ex. Like, it was this funny, like, little afternoon. So it was still a great time together. But I was like, whoa, like, I mean, I would say willpower, although I don't love that word, but she was just so clear on what she needed and what she didn't. The other things were just going to be junk, you know? And I think and maybe I don't even remember. I probably picked up a few pieces of crap, like, because, yeah, I was there and, IKEA just totally manhandles us. But I think I felt closer to her. It's like, "Oh, is this why I trust you so much?" Or like, wow, you're really just going to do what you say you're going to do and you're not going to get distracted. What, just what that says about her and, what I can perceive of like, maybe her financial stability or, just how she handles things. I'm not saying she's perfect, but sometimes it opens the door a little bit of like, oh, I could be a person who walks out of IKEA with one item. Could I? And I think in our relationships we can learn like, oh, that's possible. That's possible. It's a very cool thing. I mean, I just encourage everyone to even just start the conversation a little bit, especially when it comes to spending, like when so often, you know, getting together with friends, like you said, like eating out, it's like, ugh, I want to see my friends, but I don't want to lay $60 down on brunch. How can I
I
do
wonder
this?
what I wonder what well, one, I'm, like, getting, like, nervous thinking about that trip because would feel like, "Well, let's just browse a little bit." Wait, we're leaving? Wait, we're done?" Like, pulling me out of the store, like, "Come on, let's go." That is so outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
I love browsing, I love shopping, and I would be so uncomfortable, like, leaving and, like, disappointed, but
Mhm.
then feeling really good driving home, being like, I didn't spend any money that I didn't need to spend. I didn't buy crap I don't need, like, all of that stuff. So I'd be curious if you brought that up to your friend, if, like, she even would think anything of it.
I
Like,
know.
"Well, no, what we just came for that. Why would we walk
I
around?
know. Well,
Why
what
would
I
we buy
know,
other things?"
and I think what I know of her, I'm gonna guess, I'll share this episode with her, see what she thinks, is that it's because she knows the temptation is real. I think I was like, "Oh, no, I know I could just, like, load up my cart with all these, like, seemingly, beautiful things that I need." Like, that's the thing. It was sort of I have a feeling it's a hard-earned lesson. She's like, "No, I know this is why I'm like this because the temptation is real. It's not that I'm not tempted, it's because I am so tempted." And she's a real minimalist. She's really good at not collecting clutter. And so like that's what it takes. It takes that kind of I think laser focus and maybe sitting with some disappointment.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it probably comes from a process. And I think
Mhm.
you're right. It's like, okay, riding the high of being there and all the potentiality. And then yeah, in the car, like maybe a little bit of letdown, but like, oh wow, like I have $200 still in my pocket. And no more clutter and stuff that's gonna, like, fall apart in a year. Um, I do think that's, like, a more lasting feeling of satisfaction
I agree.
that's the lasting feeling, yeah, that, like,
Yeah.
"Oh, do I have some control over myself?" Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder what the the cost of FOMO is. If my friends said to me, "We're going to this festival, bringing our kid," and I'd be like, Well, I don't love the acts, but, like, I like them well enough." Like, I'd go because 'cause I'm like, "I don't wanna miss out."
Sure, I was on
Like,
the nice it was a 50-50 for me. You really debated it. Yeah.
but how many things do we go to
Yes.
or do because we don't wanna miss out?
Yeah.
Like, because of the FOMO. Like, what is the I
Yeah.
obviously, the rhetorical, but, like, what is the economy behind FOMO? Like, what is that
Oh,
costing
I think
us?
it's really there. I mean, yeah, we could call it the FOMO tax. I mean, in this funny way, it actually circles right back around to the Ponzi stuff, right? It
Yeah.
is. There's a cost of like missing out. Like at our hearts, we are such social creatures. Like it doesn't matter how introverted you think you are. Like we are wired to connect. We're wired to feel safe with our people, and we all have different interests in like how many people that is and stuff. But like we really do desperately want to be with others in a safe way. And it really, when we talk about heartache, it literally can hurt our hearts to like be left out of something. And I think that I do think that our economy is hugely based on that. For sure our consumerism, right? And like it always cracks me up when you see like groups of teenagers walk around or like young people and they're all like wearing the same clothes. Like they don't even realize they're all wearing black t-shirts that they totally are. We just want to be like, yeah. It's very strong pull. It's very, very human.
It is. Yeah, with everyone, the teenagers looking the same. I'm like, "You can't tell me you all like those shorts." Like, I have a 14-year-old. They all wear the same shorts. They all wear it's like copy paste, copy you can't tell me each and every one of you love this outfit. Like I
They
don't
do,
believe it.
but they think they're being individual. Like, I wanna be different like everyone else. They really do.
Yes.
But we've all
Yes.
got that. We've all got, little teenagers like, "Oh, sure, I'll go. Well, future me problem. I'll figure it out later."
Yeah. Yeah. I I have a group of friends that I go out to dinner with like every month or so. And so we try to decide on a restaurant we all like. And but most recently we had a restaurant come up and one woman we learned after the fact that, yeah, I really don't love Indian food, but I didn't want to miss out. You ate a dinner you didn't necessarily enjoy that much and you paid for it because you didn't want to miss out. How many times do we do that to ourselves? But I don't know what the answer is
Yeah.
because is the night out well worth it? Yes, it probably
Oh,
is.
yes.
But we had to pay a tax, the FOMO
The
tax
FOMO
on
time.
it.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, then, is there an aspect of our friendship where there's a little wall there, right? Can someone speak up like, "This I wanna see you guys, but this situation doesn't quite work for me." It's like maybe there's like a greater thing. Do we have the openness in this relationship for that, right? So, "Oh, I don't love that spot, or I don't love that food," or like, another thing that happens is, when friends are in different, financial brackets and stuff like that, and like, you know, some folks can do things that you just can't afford to do, and I think just like back to this, is there a little room for honesty in that? Um, I bring this up with clients and club members a lot, and more often than not, well, people kind of find who their friends are. Like, I know it's like, oh, I don't want to say it and like risk making things weird. But the thing is, if it makes something weird with somebody, like, does that also speak to that relationship? Right. Usually, the folks who you really trust or feel closest with, they'd be like, oh my God, I'm so glad you brought that. And then, oh, okay, now we're at another level of intimacy. And I've definitely heard like my clients say, like, many times, myself included, like, oh, the fact that they were weird about it actually pointed to some other issues I had in that relationship, like, oh, we should be able to talk about that, you know? And like, hey, as a group, we could find something. Hey, Susie doesn't like Indian food and love her for it. Right. And like get creative and find a way to make it work for everybody. But
It
it
was
did take her being brave to say that.
It did, it did. And I was interviewing Stephanie Sefferin from, Sustainable Minimalist, a couple months ago, and we were talking about money and, she did, capitalism, and she was bringing all this stuff up, and, we were talking about bringing stuff up with your friends, and she was like, "Well, I don't think my friends would enter like it wouldn't be a good conversation. Like if I say, "Well, no, I don't want to do that," or I'm choosing not to spend my money on that, my friends might give me a hard time." And she's working through it. And in my head, I'm thinking, well, then they're probably not that good of friends. And she goes, that's not true. They would be fine with it. I just made up this whole scenario in my head. So what does that say about me?
Yeah.
And so,
Right? That's the shame bit. It's very much like, oh, how I think I'm being looked at. And we're always like kind of bopping in and out of our psyche, right? How do I feel versus how do I look like I feel? And sometimes we get those confused because we're bopping back and forth all the time. Yeah. To like, be like, wait a second. I think also like, how would I behave if a friend told me that? Right? That usually dispels, like, what is going on here? Like, is that really that embarrassing or that terrible? When, like, if my good friend told me that, oh, I'd be like nothing but luck, right? And yeah, if your friends are gonna be worried about it, then it will uncover other stuff that, probably needed to be talked about in the relationship. It's sort of the great sorting agent. I mean, like money will just bring up the unprocessed gunk in any situation. Just bring up whatever money has to do with whatever you're dealing with. It will uncover something because it's always supposed to be under wraps, right? So, and totally also understandable if we want to avoid that topic because, like, I don't know how this is going to unravel. Totally fair. It's because it can be emotional. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I do encourage people to give it a little try because I think we're all just like really eager. How are you affording that?
yes, I totally agree. Totally agree. Just start tiptoe into the water, walk slowly into it. You don't have to dive in, but do a little something, and I'm sure everyone is going to enjoy it and feel good talking about it.
Relief, or like, I don't know, like, or there's sometimes there won't be an answer. Like, I don't know how I'm doing it, or I got a lot of debt. This was probably this podcast you recommended, right? How are you doing it? I just have a lot of debt. And that could be the answer. And then, oh my gosh, now we can like trauma bond over this. That's so great.
That's a wrap on this Talkin Money Unfiltered conversation with Rachel Duncan. I hope you're walking away with a fresh reminder that there's no such thing as easy money, and that sometimes the smartest financial move you can make is simply slowing down, asking questions, and talking about it out loud. Be sure to check out Rachel's podcast, Money Healing Club. And don't forget, follow Everyone's Talking Money on your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode. Leave a quick 5-star rating and review to help us reach more listeners, and come hang out with me on Instagram at Everyone's Talking Money to share your thoughts on this conversation. Because at the end of the day, money is slow and it is not sexy. But most importantly, it should be a tool. But most importantly, money should be a tool to live life on your terms. It is not a secret shame, not a quick fix scheme, and definitely not something you have to figure out alone. Thanks for joining me, and I'll catch you next time.